I convinced my mentally ill mother that the house had demons in it. So keep in mind, I know I was an issue kid. This was an issue move. I don't recommend it. But I will talk about it. My mother is mentally fragile. She has mental illnesses that she's completely aware of, but is so stubborn that she used to deny them on occasion, stop taking meds, abuse meds, etc. She was not healthy. Her kids constantly made efforts to communicate with her about how this affects her and her children. It all always seemed to go through one ear and out the other. I never gave up on her, and she's doing so much better nowadays. However, she was not always the best mom for many other reasons, as well. She would never believe anything anyone said unless it had to do with someone she had a conspiracy theory about. She'd often make wild accusations. She may have had horrible memory problems. Example being, she did a huge giveaway of some of her smaller belongings before leaving me for another state. But when she came back, she started accusing everyone of robbing her of said belongings. I used to have horrible anger issues due to toxic environments both in and out of the home. I didn't have a healthy way of coping with it, so I thought the best way to get back at my spiritual ass mother for all the bullshit she was obsessed with ghosts and aliens was to convince her the house was haunted. This woman was also partially deaf. She would have the TV on full volume and I'd be standing right next to her, literally screaming for her, and would not get a response until I stood directly in front of her. That gave me the bright idea to yell her name and leave. Or crawl across the kitchen floor behind the TV. Or move things. She would then realize a little too late and come asking my siblings and I if it was us. I'd pretend like she was crazy for it. This all came to an end when she started accusing my eldest sibling of being possessed. My second eldest sibling also had a nightmare so bad once that her freak out caused our dog to also freak out. I'm talking growling and barking at my siblings' bedroom after they came out crying. They have PTSD. My mother then closed herself in the bedroom and started screaming at demons. Doing a whole ass exorcism. Blessing the house. In that moment, my adolescent self realized this may not have been the safest or healthiest way to cope with an abusive household and put an end to the spooky shenanigans. TLDR, mother was mentally ill, obsessed with the paranormal, also didn't know how to raise or treat kids. So I, a complete shell of a child, convinced her demons were afoot in the household. When I was 14, I put a brick on the acceleration pedal in my parents' car, and it fell into a lake. This happened when we lived behind a lake. I was annoyed with my parents, because they were taking us on a surprise trip, so I grabbed a brick from our yard and slammed it onto the pedal and changed the gear into neutral. The car rolled all the way down our driveway and into the lake with a splash. My parents arrived in time to see the roof slowly submerging in the water. My classmate and I hacked in the school system to save us from failing. It is the same classmate I experimented with. Please go check my page. We were in the 3rd year of high school. In that school year you can be absent max 289 hours, which is 48 school days. I was dumb and lazy. I either cut classes, stayed at home because I was late, or evaded a test. On every 2-3 of the school year, The vice principal visits the class and talks to the students who have the potential of failing and then sends a letter to their parents. Me and my classmate were one of them. I had sufficient grades, so at first I didn't know what was the reason. She told me that I was at the limit of the days of absence and that I had only 2 days remaining. She said it's either I provide a medical certificate or they will fail me if I surpass it. I later made sure that the letter she sent never got to my parents. Then karma happened. I got the influenza and had to stay 1 week at home. At this point, I was desperate. Meanwhile, my classmate also surpassed the limit because he was always late. We talked about it and then he came up with a plan. He said that he can hack to the system and erase our absences. The only problem is that he doesn't know way to enter it. Fortunately, I know. I was the pet of our advisor English teacher because I was so near the top of her class. She usually give me her phone and access to the system to put some grades and do the attendances. I then give it back to her at the end of the lesson. So one day, at recess after English class, I didn't give back her phone. She didn't notice and then I gave it to my classmate. He then erased some days of our absences and changed his grade on the way. It took him a long time that our teacher noticed and began searching for me and her phone. My classmate then finished and gave it to me. I later returned it to her and said that I was having a diarrhea in the bathroom, that's why I was gone too long and forgot it. Fortunately, we weren't caught and we passed the school year. I know it was wrong, but other of my schoolmates have done worse just to pass. This is one of the many things I did in school that I totally regret. I tried my best to make up for it. My mom has created a strange online persona using pictures of me. Since my father passed due to an accident a few years ago, I have been living alone with my mother. A few years ago, I started hearing my mom screaming at someone over the phone and throwing things in fits of anger. As this became more frequent, I figured out through some snooping that she was in an online relationship with a man she knew while my father was still alive. I'm gonna call him Kale. Over time, I found out the following about their relationship. She sends him large sums of money while claiming she doesn't have enough money to support me, my brother, who is studying overseas, and herself. Kale knows that she was once married and is now widowed, but she had told him that she was unable to have children with my father, even though she had me and my brother. Kale thinks she is 2 years younger than him when she is more than a decade older than him. These lies are not the issue though. I don't care that my mom is in a relationship, and what she does in that relationship is none of my business. The issue is the fact that she uses images of me and my life in her online persona. Initially, I learned that she was using pictures of me as a baby and sending them to Kale and some other men on the internet, saying they were pictures of her as a child. She constantly takes pictures of me and our extended family at gatherings and uses them to lie to Kale for no reason. Once, she sent a picture of mine and someone else's legs just to tell him they were her legs. She also posts pictures of random objects I own and art that I create on her Facebook, claiming that they are hers. Recently, she's been sending current photos of me to Kale saying they were pictures of her as a teenager and fat-shaming herself, me. All these are just a few of the very disturbing lies she tells Kale. She tells him slanderous and fake stories about my father and his side of the family, and makes up all kinds of random facts about her life where she is always the victim. My main problem right now is that her photo-taking habits have made me extremely paranoid. I feel as though I have no privacy in my own house and cannot own anything I like or engage in hobbies she might decide to claim as her own. Aside from her online behavior, she is just a toxic family member overall. She has always been narcissistic. She also makes no effort to hide her explosive on and off relationship with Kale even when she's screaming at him over the phone, since she's always been dismissive of me and assumes I don't notice anything she's doing. Living alone with someone like her causes my anxiety to skyrocket. My brother knows nothing about the situation, and I don't plan to tell him anyway. Some other family members vaguely know about the situation, but no one really knows how to bring it up or if we should even address it, as we fear she might retaliate and do something drastic.